Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Pyro's Projects. Today I'm going to get going on the tank cradle for my welding cart, and hopefully, if it goes quick enough, get into setting up the racks to put the welder and the plasma cutter on. I do want to address a quick little thing that was brought up in the last video by a former co-worker of mine, Dave. He mentioned it looked a little top heavy. So I'm going to put the camera in the tripod and show you how stable it actually is. Hold on just one moment. All right. I understood the concern for the being top heavy because it does look that way. But, I mean, I'm giving it a pretty good push. And I figure once I get all the weight set down here in the bottom with, the welder and the plasma and the chop saw sitting back here, that'll help to bring the weight down lower, but it's pretty solid. I mean, I got to give it a pretty good push to get it to even rock. So thank you for the concern. I appreciate it, but I feel it's pretty stable for what I'm going to be using it for. So I'm going to get a few things moved around and set up and get to work on the tank rack on the back, and I'll show you what I got. Okay, a little catch up as to where I'm at. I got the starts of my cradle put on the back here. Ooh, let me do a side shot. So what I did is down here at the bottom, down here, it's just an 8-inch piece going down. And then I took another piece, it was about 24 inches going up, and I cut it at an angle, and then, or at a 45, and then I added the two 45s to add the top. Now I got to work on building the tray that'll sit down here in the bottom for the gas cylinders to sit in. I don't know how I'm going to pull this one off because I don't have any plate that big, but I'll come up with something. Even if I have to put two pieces of plate together, I guess. But that's what it's looking like so far. I did go ahead and just temporarily tacked this top plate on because I'm actually going to use this plate to build the little tray down there in the bottom before I weld it to the base. So, but everything's coming together nice and solid. Then I'll get to work on the angled rack to put the welder and the plasma cutter on, and we'll go from there. Okay, what I did is built myself a frame, and then I managed to find a piece of plate that I could use, and I just tacked it in there a couple of places and on the back side to hold it all together. But what I'm going to try and do now is take that little rack, and I'm going to use my little floor jack here to hold it up in place so I can weld it to the 4 legs at the bottom of the whole thing. That way I'll have somewhere to set the gas bottles. So I'll get that put in place, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then I'll carry on with trying to build the rack system to hold the welder and the plasma cutter down here at this end. And there we have it. Still got about 3 inches or so, 3-4 inches from the concrete up to the bottom of that cradle there. Next, I'm going to get started on this rack up here up front for the welder and the plasma cutter. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to mess with a few things and see if I can figure out a plan for it. And once I figure the plan out, I'll come back. I'll let you know. Okay, so here's what I've come up with this for the welder and the plasma. I'm going to put the welder on the outside set of bars because I got to be able to flip open the door to change my wire if I need to. And then the plasma cutter is going to sit on this one. Now, I put a backstop for the welder so that it won't slide down, and for the plasma because it's quite a bit shallower, but I don't know if I'm ever going to get a chance to upgrade and get a better plasma cutter. I mean, this one's working fine, but eventually if I need to, I can upgrade. I'm marked it here to give the air regulator and whatnot a little bit of room back here and a little bit of room up front. I don't know how I'm going to do this to so it's not a permanent piece. That way, if I get a new one, I can adjust it if I need to. But what I'm going to do eventually at some point, I'm going to sit down and think about it for a few minutes right now, but I got to come up with a way to secure both the welder and the plasma cutter to these bars so that as I'm rolling the cart around, they don't just like rattle off and fall. I could use a ratchet strap, but I don't really want to, because with the welder, like I said, I got to be able to flip the door open to change the wire wheel if I need to. So I'm going to figure something out eventually. I've got to finish building this piece to make sure everything sits the way I want it to sit. And then I'll figure out how to kind of secure them down a little bit. I did notice on my welder that there are some little recessed pieces here. So maybe what I could do is once I set it on there, figure out how to go from these recesses down to what it's going to sit on to kind of lock it into place. That would work out really well. Or I could maybe come all the way up, because there is a handle on both the front and the back here. Maybe I could just come up to these and go back down to the bars it's going to sit on. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it. Once I get done actually building this portion of it where I can put that on there, then I can look and see how everything sits and maybe come up with a mounting situation at that point. So once I get some more of that figured out, and I'll transfer the welder and the plasma cutter over to these so you can see what it looks like. So I came up with an idea for attaching or securing the welder to my rack here. What I'm going to do is, I'll come back to that in a second. I got to looking at my welder, and there's these Allen head screws through the whole thing. So I'm thinking if I take this one right here out, put that back in so I don't lose it because I know better. I'm going to weld this bracket up, and I'll drill a hole somewhere right in this general neighborhood for the same size of that screw, but I need to get a longer screw, probably at least another 1/2 inch to 1 inch longer. And what I'm going to do is, you can just barely see on the other side that screw comes through this front handle. It's the same on the back. So if I drill a hole through that bracket, feed the screw through, goes right into this handle, and that'll tie everything right to the base. Now, I can obviously make my two little brackets here, but I'm not going to be able to put it all together yet because I need the longer screws so that I can mount it so that it's nice and tight against the base here, get it screwed in so that when I put it on the racks, I can tack it into place and it'll be exactly where it needs to be. But since I don't have the longer screws right at this moment, I don't see any point in really trying to actually put it all together. So maybe what I'll do is I'll run up to the store tomorrow morning, get the screws that I need, and continue with this tomorrow. And that way, once I have it all built and secured to the cart, then I'll show you what it's actually going to look like. So I might just pause. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll build these two brackets today. And then I'll just go ahead and call it quits for today. And we'll pick this back up first thing tomorrow at some point. Hey, everybody. It's the next day. It's a little later in the afternoon than I was originally anticipating, but I got the longer screws to go through for the handles here so I can mount it. I actually went ahead and made my mounting brackets. Got them all drilled out, so when I set the thing in place, I can just run the new bolts in and tighten it up, and it'll be secure. Also went ahead and added the backstop to keep the to set my plasma cutter in place. I won't actually need this when I'm done, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for the time being just because. What I did do is I made these couple of brackets here out of that 1/2 inch by 1 inch rectangle tube, drilled some holes, took the screws out that the rubber feet were mounted with, and mounted these plates right to the base. Now I'm going to set that on that rack and tack those or weld those brackets into place, and that'll be done. Once I get that in place, I'll set the welder on the cart and show you basically what the finished product is going to look like. So I'll be back in a few minutes to show you that. All right, everybody, here's the finished product. So I got my welder. You can see it's bolted in right here. Ain't going nowhere. My plasma cutter, I've got that, the little bracket welded down to its space. I tried to keep them back as far as I could to keep the cords from sticking out too far, but I didn't win real well with this for the welder. But then got the tank mat set up in here. I don't have everything plugged in and secured 100% because I've got to take it all apart to paint the frame. But you can see the chop saw down here in the bottom, grinder, tape measure, some clamps, whatever. But that's what it is. This is what I've been working on. Oh, I also added this spring contraption. I have no idea what it is, where it came from. I had it laying around, but it worked real well to just set the welding torch right in here. Like if I'm doing something, I can just turn around and set it in there instead of laying it on the ground or, end up hitting the trigger and advancing the wire. But this is what it is. Like I said, I'm going to take it all apart. I'm going to paint the frame, the base of the cart where it's green. I'm going to paint it all black. And then I'm actually going to keep this top surface bare, but I am going to grind it clean and smooth, get rid of the rust. Gives me somewhere to work and I can tack stuff together, which I actually did for several pieces of the cart. But here we have it. Appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to subscribe.